Go to investorthrive.com right now to check out some of our free training on how you can make money as a real estate investor, or schedule a time with me so we can chat about our mastermind mentorship and how we can help you learn how to wholesale nationwide and grow your business. Everybody, welcome Investor Thrive Nation. I got Jake Kelfer on here with me today, and guys, if you want to know what he's about writing books, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Using books to build your business. So guys, welcome again. If you haven't ever been to the podcast, I bring on people who I think are awesome and interesting and how they can give you information to help you grow your business. So that's why we got them on here, and we're just going to chat. I mean, I've honestly never chatted with you in depth. So the conversation I'm going to have with you is going to be pretty genuine, and it's going to be probably the questions that most of you guys are going to have. All right. So stay tuned and let's see how Jake can, rock our worlds. All right. So Jake, tell us a little bit about yourself. None of us really, maybe a lot of people in Washington don't know you. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, man. First of all, I appreciate you having me here. I'm pumped to bring some heat, some big time energy. And I'll give you the super short version. I went from working with the Lakers and Kobe Bryant to writing 3 best-selling books, traveling the world as a motivational speaker, and to now coaching people on how to write and launch their own books so they can grow their business, boost credibility, and live the life of their dreams. So there's a lot to unpack there. I'm excited to dig into it, but let's have some fun.
Yeah, man, that's amazing. So you were working with the Lakers. Were you a coach? Like what did you do over there first off?
So it's first job out of college. So as much as I want to say like I had this impressive title, working straight with the team, I was an assistant for the corporate partnerships division. But what was so cool about this was I was working for the team during Kobe's final NBA season. And so everybody was trying to get in on the action, right? You had people putting their life savings to come watch Kobe play one final time. You had every brand trying to get in. Deals were flowing. And so as an assistant to the corporate partnerships world, I got to help with all those activations. So I picked all the contestants for the half court shots, the halftime contest, the skills challenges. I did meet and greets pre and post game. So I got an inside look into both the player side of the business as well as the business side of the business. And that was really something cool as a guy who grew up a Laker fan. So that was kind of how I started. I was an assistant, just trying to figure out what the heck was I going to do and how was I going to make my impact. And that kind of led into something really, really special right after that season.
Dang, man. And that's Kobe's last game he played against the Jazz, and he went off, and that Jazz is my team. So yeah, that was we remember that last.
So listen to this. So as a Jazz fan, I'm so at least you get that memory that it was his final game, right? But I'm sitting there. Okay. Now, when you work for the Lakers or you work for a sports team, you're supposed to be professional, right? Like, you're running the business, you're operating the business. And so you're not supposed to be like this crazy big fan. Mm-hmm. So I'm over there, but I knew that once Kobe was retiring, I was retiring, and I was going off my own. So the last 5 minutes of this game, the Lakers are down by like 8 or something. And I'm like looking at my people right to my left and to my right. I'm like, Kobe's going to Kobe one more time.
He's got to.
We're sitting in the tunnel right next to the basket that the Lakers are scoring on. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, Kobe starts to score and score and score and score. And I started getting excited. I'm like, screw this. I'm going all in. Like, let's go, Kobe, right? Like, I'm getting nuts. And then they end up pulling it off. And it was just, a memory that I'm never going to forget to see him do that one final time. And I'm sorry that it was with your Jazz, but at the same time, great memories.
I'm kind of glad it was against the Jazz. He went off on us. He had to. That's cool though. So tell me about. So you were there, and you said when Kobe was going to retire, you said you were going to retire. Did I understand that right? So
tell
me about that.
So while I was working with the team that season, I had some experiences with Jerry West. I had been watching Kobe, and I really ultimately saw the impact that these basketball icons had on the world. And I thought to myself, how do I make this impact? I may be a young assistant, but there's got to be a way for me to make an impact. So I come home one day and I ask myself 2 questions that literally changed my life. What do I know? And how can I help people? Mm-hmm. And as I'm thinking about it, as much as I wanted to say I knew a lot of things at that time, I was 1 year removed from college. I didn't know much. And the things that I did know was how to get your dream job, how to get a dream internship, how to network with people, how to interview well, how to have a good resume. And I was like, you know what? I could teach all college kids this. I could teach my fraternity brothers this. I could teach my real brother, who's a couple years younger than me, this. And if I do that, I could help them get better jobs, spend less time, and then have more time to study or party or do whatever they want to do in college.
Yeah.
I ended up writing my first book, and I decided that I was going to launch it once Kobe retired. And so, because I didn't know what I was doing, this is my first book. I just was like, let's pick a launch date. Kobe's retiring after the season. That was April 13th. He'll finish up at the end of the month. I'm ending at the end of the month. So May 1st is my launch date. And so Kobe retired, I retired, and I launched my first book on May 1st, 2016. And it became an Amazon bestseller, helping people really figure out what they want to do in their life and discover their passion.
That's amazing. And May 1st is a good day, bro. It's my birthday.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah, that's sweet. So, man, did you have prior experience in college to like writing? Like, were you an English major? Or did you like, what made you want to write the book? Like, you know, and do you do it yourself and not maybe like hire a ghostwriter or something?
Yeah. So I'll be as honest as I can be. I had no clue what I was doing. You know what I mean? Like I really didn't know. The intention wasn't to necessarily write a book when I started this, but what happened is I started it actually as blog posts. Because I was like, oh, I could just give them small bite-sized information. But nobody wanted that. No college kid wanted to read a blog on career development. So I was like, I got to come up with something different. And so I met with a mentor of mine, and he was like, he's a professor at UCLA at the time. And he was like, Jake, dude, this is good stuff. And I was like, cool, thanks. Like, I appreciate that. Thanks for the feedback. He goes, you need to make this into a book. And I looked at him like he was crazy. Because in my mind, you had to achieve a certain level of success, have a certain amount of fame, live a certain amount of life experience before you earned the right to share a book. And he goes, like, if this was in a book, this would be something that I would share with my classes. This would be something that we'd bring you in to speak about. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And he says, so are you up for the challenge? I'm like, I'm in, let's go. And so from that conversation, I turned all the blog posts and I turned it into a book. And that's what inspired me to make this a book. And I'm so grateful that I did, because having a book, no matter what age I was, that was the difference in my next stage of my career. Having a book gave me credibility as a 23-year-old to speak on stages for colleges.
Wow.
It put me in book syllabuses for different classes. So different colleges around the country started featuring my book in their career management classes, in their sports management classes. And that was how I started to build my brand and build my following. Because like I said, I didn't really know what I was doing at the time, but I just knew that I had a message to share. And I knew that if I could share my message, I wasn't 20 years ahead of somebody. I was 1 to 2 steps ahead of somebody. And that was all I needed to be able to share to get somebody the result. And because of that, because of writing a book, it put me onto a national stage and really started to build something special.
That's amazing, man. So let me ask you this. So when you had blog posts, did you just literally take the blog posts and put it into like pages in a book, or did you have to format it and, you know, change it up a little bit?
For this first book, I kind of looked at the blog post and I was like, okay, this is great for an outline, but I need to redo it completely. We now that I've had so much experience working with so many people, we can take a course, we could take a coaching program, a mastermind, we can take a keynote speech, we could take somebody's blog and social content, and you can turn that into the framework of a book, or vice versa, turn the book into all of those other pieces. But for me at the time, I didn't think the blog posts were all that great. And so I just did the best that I could to use that as like almost like a rough draft outline. And then I kind of picked my main topics, built out my formal outline, and then wrote the book and banged it out super quickly because I just needed to hit a few points. And then boom, the book was done in less than 6 months.
Wow. That's awesome, man. So you're basically saying by having a published book, people look at you differently. You basically excel in places that maybe you wouldn't have if you didn't have that published book.
Yeah, for 100%. I mean, I believe from my experiences, a book is hands down the fastest way to market your business and achieve the success that you want, no matter what the industry is. So I'll give you another example. Fast forward to book 2. I had just mentioned that my book was coming out. I got connected with an educator in China because they knew what my book was going to be about, which was networking. My second book's called Elevate Your Network. They were like, oh, we need someone who can come in and do communication and networking with our students, our staff, and a couple other organizations. They hired me on the spot before the book was even done. And I did a 10-day speaking tour in China because I was about to have a book. So the biggest thing that we have to consider here, and everyone that's listening to this is in real estate entrepreneurship, is you gotta understand this: competition is at an all-time high. Okay,
Mhm.
there's never before been more competition. There's never been more choice for consumers, buyers, sellers to pick who they want to work with. Well, what's the fastest way to eliminate choice? By being so good they can't ignore you. How do you get so good they can't ignore you? You make yourself have an asset that so few people have. And
Right.
in this case, it's a book. And so by having a book, you've now put yourself at a higher level. And when you're looking at competition, speaking engagements, podcasts, clients, whatever it may be, coaching, you now have put yourself ahead of the competition, eliminating that choice, making you the most obvious decision because you are perceived as the go-to person, the expert on the particular topic.
No, I totally get it. So so most of the audience that watches this are real estate investors, right? Wholesalers, they're trying to get deals. And what I found is I have a mini book, you could call it a packet, right? So like I have an info packet about my company. So when I'm talking to a seller, I say, hey, I know you're probably interested to know about my company. Here, let me email you this information packet. It's about 10 pages and it shows them, our company, who works for it, our proof of funds, contracts, like information about us, right? So immediately I set myself apart from the guy that just calls them. All right. So I totally get what you're saying. Having a book does immediately create credibility. Like
Yeah,
you said.
it
Right.
just puts you at a different level, right? Because if you look at all the top thought leaders, the biggest people in this space, what do they all have? They all have a book. And we as a society, whether it should be this way or not, we as a society view people with books as people that have more expertise than the person who just calls somebody.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's
That's the truth.
true,
Yeah.
you just perceive that person to be more of an expert and more legit. And when we talk about investments, when we talk about buying, when we talk about selling, especially at high volume or high numbers, well, credibility and trust is going to be the biggest factor along with social proof that you know what you're doing. And if you can show somebody that through a book, which allows you to share your experiences, it allows you to share your knowledge, and it allows you to share your client success stories all at the same time without being braggadocious. Well, now you've just given somebody a tangible product and an inside look into who you are at the most intimate and highest level without being salesy, without being pushy, and also letting them feel comfortable to make an investment decision with you. So, like, books do so many more things than just, oh, I have a book.
Right. No, I mean, even if they don't even read it, right? Like they still, it comes with that aura of like, hey, I mean, if someone has, like, I got some books over here, and I haven't read even half of them. I'll be real. I get them as gifts and stuff, but I'm like, yo, that author, he's legit. He's got a book, right? So it's instant just believing and credibility. Like I believe it. So let's talk about it. Let me tell you, this might be a little different, but just an example. I'm LDS, I'm Mormon, right? So I went on a mission for my church when I was 19 to 21. For 2 years, I talked to people about Jesus. So I kept a blog, for example, for the whole 2 years. I'd write emails. I had tons and tons of information because I recorded everything. But I'm just thinking, as you're saying, I'm like, hey, I had a blog. I just looked at it like maybe a month ago just because I was interested. So that's not something to do with real estate or anything. It's just a thought. I'm like, yo, I could turn that into a book, maybe about like my experience talking about Jesus for 2 years, right? Like doesn't really increase the credibility of what I do, but I just think it'd be cool to have a book, you know?
For sure. And there's the big thing that I think a lot of people need to recognize is there's always an intention on the back end of why you create the book.
Yeah.
So in that situation, it would just be cool to have a book about your experience and kind of like, this is what I did, and kind of document the story, right?
Right.
And
Right.
the result of that could be, who knows, maybe you build an incredible following, and people are like, oh my gosh, you're going crazy in this sector. But the
Yeah.
other side of it could literally just be, you know what? This is a cool memory for me to have. I don't really care if anybody else sees it, but now I have this, I can share it with my kids. I can share it with my family. I can share it with people who ask me questions about this because I don't have the time to talk about that all that often anymore. But now
Yeah.
I can just give it to them in this format. So there's always a back end intention that drives
For sure.
why the book gets done and how quickly it can get done.
Got it. Well, the reason why I bring this up in like the back of my head is like pretty much Investor Thrive was a mentorship, right? We've talked about that. And I focus on helping people with their sales skills, right? Like getting on the phone with sellers, going in person, closing them over a Zoom call. And I believe that my sales skills took off, and like the best training I've had was the 2 years where I talked to people about Jesus, because you'd go knock on doors, you go do crazy stuff where people definitely don't want to talk to you, and you're still like taking no's every day. So I was like, maybe I wanted to make a YouTube video, just be like, hey, the best sales training I've ever had was the 2 years of my mission, right? But I just, I don't know if you could even tie that, be like, hey, here's my experience 2 years, and I've taken this and multiple other things and attributed this to real estate, like sales. So maybe that could somehow play into be like, hey, this is my experience, in sales. And, I also can teach you how to get better at talking to sellers.
First of all, you need that as a video, dude. That's got clickbait written all over it, dude. That's solid.
Right?
But here's how I would do this if I was thinking of a book, right? And let's assume you're not trying to write 6 different books or 4 different books and really segment it. Let's say you're trying to just get one book out quickly, tie it all together. The best way to leverage that would be in your book when you're teaching people about the sales skills. You would reference a story or two from that time of your life, which allows people to understand your background, relate to you, especially if they share the same beliefs, or if they just want to hear the inspirational story of figuring out the sales. We've all heard the story of the door-to-door sales. We've all heard the story of what you're talking about, but there's something to it, right? And so the way that you would put this into your book, knowing that sales process is the goal and knowing that growing your mentorship would be the goal, you would want to tap in from previous life experiences to parlay into the point you want to make to help the reader get the result for themselves. Because a book is for the reader, right? So use your experience to lead into the message that will help a reader see the solution. And that would be where the benefit would just be so exponential for you, because they get to know you, they get to see your past, they get to see what you've learned, and now they get to see what you're teaching because of that and the results that you have. And that's going to get them to say, oh, I need to be mentored by this guy. I like his style. I like the way he operates. I like the process, and it's already worked for me. And all I've had to do is spend $15 or sign up for a free copy of the book and whatever, right? So like, that's how you really tap into past experience with business objectives.
That's a good idea. So I see how books could help, like, for example, for the mentorship, and additional to that, like, hey, this is how how to get a deal in real estate, right? And you could go through my coaching course and we like build a book out of that. Like, I'm sure you do, like you said already, you do that a lot. You can basically take courses and put them as a book. So how do you feel like this could tie into the wholesaler or the real estate investor and having a book for like a seller? Like, you're talking to a seller and you're like, hey, by the way, I have a book. Like, how do you feel like that would work out?
So there's a couple of things here, right? The first and foremost thing that we got to address here is that you have the book, you're now credible and seen differently. That gets you the meetings that maybe you weren't getting, or that increases the percentage of meetings that you're getting. We know in real estate, a lot of times it's a numbers game, right? And so we have to make sure that we're increasing our numbers without necessarily adding more effort. And a book allows you to do that because your percentages increase because people perceive you as to have more information and knowledge. Now, the second part of that is, what are you actually putting in this book? So based on this objective, you're going to want to make sure you include the relevant information that would make the seller want to work with you, right? And so by doing that, you're going to share a couple more stories of your past experience. You're going to basically take your knowledge and process and kind of show them what you would do, because by doing this, you're going to help them feel comfortable, and you're going to help them feel that you are the person that can best utilize or turn their money into more money, or give them an opportunity to create a better working partnership. And then once that's done, you can use your book as a lead gen tool. You can use your book as a networking tool. You can use your book to get on podcasts that have the audience of sellers. You can use your book as a low ticket entry point to say, hey, I got a book on this. And by doing all of that, you build your audience, you build your reputation, you build your following. And if you're consistent with all this, that one effort of book can turn into a 10x of your return, easy. And so those are some of the ways that you can really leverage it, regardless of it's just for a coaching program or in the wholesaling world.
Yeah, I could also see, for example, wholesalers not only have to acquire seller leads and get houses under contract, but they also have to sell them. So I feel like having a book about, that you could give potentially to investors that you could sell your properties to, right? That
100%.
create credibility, be like, hey, this guy, Nate, or whoever, their company, they're getting deals consistently. And here's a book to show how credible their business is, right? Like,
Well, and you got to think about this too. Like I know a bunch of real estate agents, and we work with some different real estate agents, and they're always going to networking events. They're always meeting up people, shaking hands, and doing things. And the old way is let's give business card. The new way is like let's exchange Instagram information or whatever. But at the end of the day, if you give them a book, maybe they're not ready to buy just yet. Maybe they're not ready to invest just yet. But like you said, your books, you might haven't even read them, but they're right there. You might, if you need something and you have a book and like, oh, I haven't read it, but like I have a book on happiness, and happiness comes up and you need something on happiness. That book is your first place of reference.
right.
And you're going to go there straight to look at it. So this book becomes a anchoring point. And when it comes to networking, I believe that there are two key words, and I'm going to tie this all together in a second. There's recency and there's frequency. And this is what separates good from elite networkers. Recency is when was the last time you were top of mind for that person? We've all had an experience where we need somebody or something and we're like, oh, who's the first person I think of? Is often the most recent touch point you had.
Mm-hmm.
That person gets the call. Frequency is what is the amount of touch points you have with a specific person. Well, we know in business that most people rarely buy on the first time. It takes 5 to 12 touch points to get somebody to eventually close a deal or work with you or whatever the statistics are these days, right? You've heard every single one in the book. But the key is more touch points tends to create more results. And so when you combine that and you have a book, what that does is it allows for touch points and frequency, because people pick up your book, they put it down, they read it before they go to bed, they have dreams about it, they get ideas, whatever. You're getting intimate time with them, right? And attention. But then it's recency. You're the last person they thought of before they went to bed, not in a creepy way, right? And you're the first person that they see when they wake up. You're the first person they see when your book's on their desk for 3 months. Your business card doesn't stay on a desk for 3 months. Your Instagram only gets checked out when needed. Your PDF only gets opened when someone is on the computer and they're not moving. But your book gets traveled with. Your book gets looked at. So you start to have recency and frequency. Then you start to become the person people call. You do that a few times, 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8. And now you have an exponential growth pattern on the networking and the lead flow side of things.
So having a physical copy is the key, not like a PDF book, right? And that's all you have.
Well, so here's what's really cool about this. The way that we've designed it, because we only work with people who are like super busy. They're leveraging a book for legacy, growth, impact, and business. And so everything that we do is we build both at the same time. And so by writing the book out once, we'll kind of show you how to do it. But essentially you need, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but you need 2 different files. But the content is very, very similar for the ebook and the paperback. And so you can leverage both for various different strategies within it. For example, your ebook you can use for more distribution. You could give pieces of it away because it's no cost to you.
Yeah.
Your paperback, though, that's the thing you give out like hotcakes. So, for example, one of the things that I did when I was beginning my speaking career was I bought 100 of my own books. Now, when you buy your own books, you get them at cost. Mm-hmm. So now I have 100 books. Well, I wanted to get in touch with some people, but their assistants wouldn't pass along my info. So I said, well, I want to send them a gift. I want to send them a copy of my book. Now I have this person who I couldn't get access to their email. Now I have their address.
Yeah.
I have their address. So I send them a copy of my book with a handwritten note on the inside, aka what my email would have said. I say, I hope you enjoy. Can't wait to chat. They get this. Everybody loves to get a package at their doorstep.
Oh,
now
yeah. I love that.
Right? Now they're reading this, and law of reciprocity works that, hey, someone just gave me a gift. I should say thank you. Then they send a message, and now I have a direct line to that person. Well, if you go back to this example, I bought 100 books. It cost me $250 to buy a book. It cost me $250 to ship it on average. So $5. That's $500 of a marketing investment that I'm now making. Here's what the return can look like. A, 100 people have books in their hand. B, if you convert 2% of those people, depending on what your offer is, that can be anywhere from $5,000 to $500,000 right away. Would you trade $500 bucks for $5,000? Would you trade $500 for $50,000?
Oh yeah.
No brainer. So using a book, you can leverage different strategies based on paperback, ebook, and all these ways to really get in front of your market, get in front of your right people. And it's fun, dude. It gets really
Yeah,
fun.
man, it sounds like you're stoked about books.
I think I'm stoked about the game more
Yeah.
than books, but like I love the game, dude. I love figuring out like what's it gonna take. I mean, Kobe's one of my idols, right? So
Yeah, for
you know,
sure.
you only play this game once, and you got to play to win.
Yeah,
So
like
books
it.
are my vehicle. They've worked for me. They've worked for a lot of other people. You see every thought leader have a book. So if every thought leader has a book, the biggest names in the space have a book, and you're struggling to differentiate yourself and get more deals, maybe you should have a book too.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. What does getting a book look like? Does that look, for example, for me or anyone watching this, would they have to, if they reach out to you, would you be like, hey, write the book and then we'll publish it? Or like, what is the next step? I'm just curious.
There are two really main ways that you can write your book. The first way is if you want to write it yourself, you're going to write the book and we'll talk about the rest of the process in a second. The other way is if you want to speak your book and be interviewed by a ghostwriter, someone who can write your book, then all you have to do is get interviewed a couple times. They'll write the book for you, and then you'll have a book down the road. So for both of these, the process is pretty straightforward. Okay. Your involvement changes based on which angle you decide to go. But essentially, you create an outline, you write the rough draft, self-edit your draft, get it edited, get it formatted, designed, published, and launched. And that whole process for many of our authors take anywhere between 4 to 6 months. And the really cool thing about that is the way that we operate is we make sure that you maintain 100% ownership, 100% rights, 100% royalties, which is very different than traditional publishers where they're going to take those royalties, they're going to take some of those rights. And so when you look at it, if you were trying to write a book, the first thing you got to decide is, do I want to write myself or do I want to hire someone to write it? If you write it yourself, it's going to be a lot more cost friendly. But if you're trying to save time and willing to give money, you're going to want to hire someone else to potentially help you write the book. Then throughout that, the way that we work with people is we can help people do it at every stage of the journey. So we help people go from big idea to bestseller, where we coach you all the way through the process. We have other people who come to us with a finished book and they need help getting it edited, designed, formatted, and actually launched. We help people who have it already but just need a launch strategy. We help people at all parts of the process so that they can have a high quality book in the shortest amount of time to produce the greatest amount of results over the long term.
Makes sense. Yeah. So it just depends where the person's at.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we worked with everybody, you know, from people that have, you know, $50 million in a real estate portfolio to we have people who are using a book to start their coaching practice, right? So there's so many variables of how it can work. But when you combine your long-term vision with this short-term action of producing a book, you close the gap much quicker.
That's sweet, man. Cool. Well, let me ask you this. For anybody that's watching or will watch that wants to write a book for their business to create that credibility and have that asset, what do they do? How do they get a hold of you?
The best way is going to be on Instagram at Jake Kelfer. That's where I spend the most amount of my time. I'm always active in the DMs, hanging out, having some fun. And then actually, you know, timing's pretty great right now is I'm actually writing my 4th book and I'm doing this crazy challenge that we're calling Project Bestseller. I'm going to write and launch my next book in 90 days or less before my 30th birthday.
Wow.
And we're going to actually document for the first time ever, people who want to join this, and it's completely free. I'm actually going to document what I do every single day from day 1 to day 90 and send you daily updates so that you can either write your book with me or just join along and see that it's not only possible, but it's possible to do faster than you think. And I'm not doing anything in advance. I mean, I have my relationships, but I'm doing all the work day to day as it goes. And we're going to share it. And then we'll have Zoom calls for people who want to ask questions. And this is super, super fun. So if you want more information on that, you can get it at my Instagram. And you can just hop on in through the link there and we'll get you access and give you some daily updates as they happen.
So I'm going to put that at the bottom. Jake Kelfer. Is it just at Jake Kelfer? That's it?
Yep.
Instagram, huh? On Instagram, right?
Yep.
Let me get this going. Let me have it scroll across the bottom because that's what we can do right there. You see that? Well, that's not scrolling. Let me get it scrolling.
Let's see that scroll, Nate.
I thought I had the scroll figured out, man. Hold on. There it is. Yo, let's get it. Yeah.
We love a good scroll, baby. We love a good scroll.
Bottom like that, man. That's slick.
That's how you know you made it. You got to scroll in the Instagram tag.
Dude, you know you made it when you can rock technology like this, you know? You can just figure it out on the fly. I figured all this out on my own, man. Write a book about how to use StreamYard. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, I'm proud of you, Nate.
Thanks, man. Hey, so let me ask you another question. What is the average cost? I know there's people coming into you that are like, don't even have a book or have the book and they need to publish. What are we talking like price wise? Average to get this book published and cross the finish line?
Wide range. Okay, there's an incredible range. We have a $92,000 package where you get the house, right? We have a $48,000 package where it's all done for you. And then on our base package, it's about $7,500, where people can get really rocking and rolling. And that is where we basically coach you from A to Z in the process. And we show you everything that you need. We have everything that somebody needs to go from big idea all the way to a bestseller launch. So we have a variety of different things. But whether you invest in a coach like someone like me or a service like ours, or you kind of piecemeal it all together, which is going to be a lot harder, a lot more time consuming, and probably more expensive. The key thing here is to get it professionally done. Because if you have a shitty cover or it doesn't look good on the interior, people are going to discredit your book. And by default, they're going to start to think you're not as legit. And so we really encourage people, whether they work with us or not, to make sure you do it as professionally as you can. You outsource for the things that you're not proficient in, and you really execute on that. And I'm happy to also share, references. We have tons of editors, designers, and formatters, but those are the ways that people work with us and kind of our price scale, kind of ranging from 7,500 all the way to 92 grand.
Wow. That's awesome, man. It sounds like a great product to have and to give out to people. And I believe in it. I know I've already seen it. It's kind of like with Instagram, right? Like if people see that, you have like 100 followers versus another coach or someone that has 100,000 or 50,000, there's a credibility. It's the same thing with the book, right? It's just not digital. Well, it can be digital, but this is like, the paperback or whatever. So I get it. It's pretty.
Yeah, the only difference there really is it's much easier to fake a certain amount of followers than it is to write a book, right? And so unfortunately, we see a lot of people getting scammed out there by that thing of equating followers to legitimacy, and followers versus the difference between being a influencer, right? Like there's a difference there. But overall, like 100%, when there's a metric that somebody else doesn't have that you possess, you've put yourself at a higher level. So when you can have the ultimate triple double life, I heard this phrase the other day. I love it. The triple double life, which is, a great stat line in the game of basketball. When you can have that, and you can have the following, the content, the book, the program, the proof, you've now put yourself in a league of your own, and it's just a matter of time before the money catches up and the clients catch up. And that's really what we help people do by leveraging a book.
I love it, man. Well, let's stay in touch. And for the people that, are watching or will watch, hit my man up. You see the scrolling Instagram. Why wouldn't you?
Hey, scrolling Instagram. I made it. So right appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime, man. Thanks.